Hello, guys. Happy Wednesday night to you.
Hi.
Hey, Nancy.
Hey.
What have you been up to lately?
Oh, lots of fun stuff. I'm getting a kick out of a lot of it.
Are you really?
Well,
Okay.
yes and no.
Just, yeah.
Gotta laugh.
Around here, we call that Wednesday.
Yeah.
You know? So, guys, we're going to recap. So, a lot has happened since Monday. For the past couple of weeks, we have been getting teachers, mainly teachers, school counselors, and others who have said, you know what, Power School, that is the official, state system for keeping track of students. They've restricted my access. I can't see the biological sex of students. And we reported that. It really, it kind of made an impression, right, Nancy? I mean, they're running cover now. So here's what they want us to believe. And we'll talk about this. We have a superintendent who has never, to my knowledge, ever accepted responsibility for anything. It's always someone's fault. It's Biden's fault. It's, whoever. She's blaming this on the feds. So she wants us to believe, guys, that schools can teach this in kindergarten, right? And all the way up through all the grades. They can teach this where there's grooming going on. They're telling kindergartners in Moore County, men attracted to men is fine. Women attracted to women is fine. It's sexual politics in the classroom. This feminine, masculine, the biological sex. So Cathie Truitt, our superintendent, our state superintendent, wants us to believe that that's cool. That's hunky dory, right? But that teachers now are not allowed to see the biological sex of their kids in the classroom because somebody might misgender somebody. Do they not think that teachers have eyes? Right? Now look at this. This survey, by the way, is okay, and other surveys like it, where kids are being asked all kinds of things. This is a middle school survey being, given. What is your sex? Well, damn it. They're going to know there, right? You're going to love this. Here we go. Wait a second. Here you go. How old were you when you tried your first cigarette? That's okay to ask, right? Now here it gets better. It gets juicier here. Ever had any alcohol? Damn it, you'll need one after you finish this survey. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
No one's gonna play with that survey at all. No adolescent is ever gonna.
No, but by the way, teachers are not allowed to look at the biological sex for some reason. Some Bennigan thing is arbitrarily removed. Yeah. How old were you when you had sex for the first time? How many partners have you had? They asked twice, how many, when's the last time you had sexual intercourse?
Mm-hmm.
So that's
okay. That risk behavior survey from the CDC.
Yeah. So that's okay. But here's another one. These are always a crowd pleaser. These type of lessons that we're going to show you, that this is going to be okay. All right. So check this out. This is a classroom discussion. Questions I have about my face, hair, chest, and body given in middle school. That's still going to work. Questions I have about growing up. Why am I changing? Why am I growing boobs? Why is there hair downstairs? Things like that in a classroom discussion. Teachers haven't been, to my knowledge, forbidden to teach that. That seems pretty damn incriminating. And, here's another one. How do I feel? What if I don't like my leg, hips, breast, lips? Well, I got a great doctor for you if you don't. No, I'm kidding. But this is still being asked. And this is insane. So she wants us to believe that all of that is totally fine. No problems, right? It's cool. And then she also wants us to believe, wait, I'll show you this. When you look at this screen, oh, shoot, I'm messing up. Nancy, you weigh in on this because.
Well, I think whatever excuse or explanation the DPI comes up with, which seems to change every other day or every 48 hours, because you did talk to the DPI on Sunday, even though they wanted it to seem via social media that you had not. They're screwing around messing around with the gender column of the state's data system for public schools. And they have to recognize, I mean, are they living, if you live in the current world, you know that gender is a hot topic, especially when it comes to public schools. So whatever excuse they come up with, or, they want to sweep it under the rug or say this is just some administrative deal and wasn't a big deal. If you're alive today, it kind of is a big deal.
Well, Nancy, they knew that because guys, let me tell you something. The DPI now has confirmed that assistant principals, and counselors are supposedly the only ones who have the lockbox, who decide who gets to see biological sex in the records of students, except for there's one problem. They were never told about this change. If this were a federal law and a federal mandate, number one, it wouldn't just affect North Carolina, it would be every state. Number two, you can bet your ass that there would be a lot of in-services, trainings, reminders that would happen. Everyone was left in the dark. Everyone was left in the dark. And you're right. They don't ask parental consent or permission because why? Yeah, it's because parents aren't in the loop. So, I've received criticism from Cathie Truitt's official fangirl, AP Dillon, over at North State Journal. And oh my gosh, Sloan is saying, and EFA is saying, that kids can change their sexual identity. And that's just not right. Well, it is right, because I tell you what, in Power School, when you don't have to use your legal name, you can use a preferred name. And when you don't actually have the recorded biological sex there, you could be Billy at 8 a.m. and Sally at 3 p.m. Children can slip in and out of identities. Plus, they can be groomed. They can be groomed.
And we already have cases of this going on across the country. I mean, Harmeet Dillon is taking this on. Parents have no idea that their children are being groomed by teachers secretly. It's very scary.
Well, it's happening actually a lot. We're hearing it happen here. And look, this is not a federal mandate. We were given the documents directly from DPI that they actually, that they were using to base their decision on. And do you remember what the constitutional lawyer said today, Nancy?
Yeah. So the DPI explanation is they're following Title IX. So recommendations from the Biden group, which is actually somewhat incorrect, because there was a Supreme Court ruling, this case, Bostock case or something, that looked at discrimination against sexual orientation and gender identity. But it was done from what I understand from this lawyer,
in the workplace.
Yeah. From what I understand is it was done in terms of an employment situation and civil rights. And specifically, he said specifically in this Bostock Supreme Court case, they specifically said this does not apply to public schools. We don't have the information to apply this to public schools. Well, the Biden Secretary Cardona, who's a pretty controversial figure and not too upfront, and Biden decided to apply it to public schools anyway. And they have this whole explanation on the education website about how they're applying that ruling about gender identity discrimination and sexual orientation discrimination to the Department of Education and public schools, even though the Supreme Court specifically said their ruling does not go there. So the NCDPI have done a couple minutes worth of research to figure out that the Biden Title IX rule applying to K through 12 schools isn't necessarily even legally grounded yet, or at least according to some experts. So, I mean, we're trying to do more research on that and figure that out. But that's a problem. That's a real problem where they're making changes to a statewide data collection system interface with all the public school students, and they're messing around and don't really have a clue, messing around with the gender category when this is a nuclear football, when we know this grooming is going on in schools, when we know parents aren't trusting the public schools right now with good reason. They don't put a press release ahead of it, even though they claim it's related to Title IX, which seems to be like a big deal, kind of federal deal. They're saying, oh, hey, Biden administration did this, and they're interpreting this case this way, so we got to examine PowerSchool, and we're going to do this. No, none of that. They just do it literally in the middle of the night, send an email out amongst however many hundreds of emails the teachers get, saying, oh, by the way,
teachers never got it.
You have to get permission to see gender or something. So ridiculous. And then they shoot the messenger. It's really just, it's awful. It's awful.
Well, when you come for this messenger, these messengers fight back. You come for us and we fight back, and we fight back with the truth. So teachers did not get any notification, Nancy. This is one email that was so nebulous. It's ridiculous. And how come Truett is the only one in America that has this interpretation? Oh, I never ask a question that I don't know the answer to, and I'm going to post the answer up right now. So this alert came out right after, in March, when Cathie Truitt decided that she was going to use the preferred names in PowerSchool rather than just the legal names. Okay, here's how they celebrated. That these groups have lobbied for this change for a while, saying that PowerSchool's original design listed students by their legal name and their assigned sex at birth, and thus potentially placing transgender students at risk of being outed when they couldn't change their profile to reflect their preferred names and pronouns. Because we've read all the other evidence that was supposed to be the real reason why Cathie Truitt made this decision. To me, this looks like it is the real reason. What do you think?
I think it certainly needs to be high up there in the list of hypotheses. And just to clarify, I brought up the statement, this lawyer from the Child and Parental Rights organization, and he's out of Georgia. I'm just going to read you specific. I feel bad just not reading specifically what he wrote to me. He said, as to the legal claims by the NCDPI and the Office of the Superintendent, I have this to say. There is nothing in Title IX, as it has currently been interpreted by the courts around the country, that supports their statement that gender identity is a protected class under the title. In fact, in Bostock, the Supreme Court emphasized that it was not expressing an opinion regarding how to interpret Title IX in public schools because those facts were not before the court. The Bostock decision was about employment law requirements under Title VII. The guidance published by the Biden administration's Department of Ed and DOJ is an agenda-driven position that I believe will be righted in the coming terms of the Supreme Court. I believe these types of actions are nothing more than a smokescreen to change the culture without changing the law and thus taking rights away from parents.
Nailed it. Nailed it. So I'm going to give you, I'm really bad about giving you action items. So I'm going to do it 3 times tonight. And I said this on Bannon today. We need every single person listening, every single person to call. Don't write. Call your local representative or call other ones. If you live in a solidly blue area, call, the Republican, the next one over. Say, are you standing with parents on this issue? The parents' right to know what the hell is going on in the classroom. The parents' right to know that their biological sex of their children is being handled like a political football in the class. Do you stand with parents, or do you stand with Superintendent Cathie Truitt, who might have an R behind her name, but make no doubt and make no mistake about it, does not believe in parental rights? Now, that is hyperbole. That's a terrible thing to say. Do you think that we have proof to back it up? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Sure do.
It's an unfortunate pattern.
It's an unfortunate pattern, and we're going to get into that, but you must call. Now, we're not done. You need to either hit us up on Facebook in the Messenger. You can edfirstnc.org, edfirstnc.org, or in Telegram, get a hold of us and say, I talked to Representative Brown, and he says he is with the parents and not with Truett. We're going to make a list, and in a week, we're going to publish the list of every single, we're going to put them on record. Everybody running for office, if they're not in office and they're running, call them. I want you to get everyone on record. Get them on record. We need to know who stands with the parents and who stands with the establishment. Because right now, guess what? We heard one guy, I forgot his name. Do you remember that rep's name?
Ben Moss?
Ben Moss came out yesterday morning and said, this situation is outrageous. We're not going to tolerate it here. This is an abuse of parental rights. We're going to take action. Later in the afternoon, he said, well, the DPI has explained it to us, and pretty much we're satisfied. The GOP is going to rally around Cathie Truitt. And you know who gets screwed? The parents, the voters. No.
Yeah, it's anytime someone says, well, the DPI told me this, so therefore that's a red flag, because the DPI can tell you something, but you've got to research it. And then you've got to ask 3 or 4 other people. You can't just go off of what they're saying. Because, I mean, they told Sloan, Blair Rhodes told Sloan one thing on Sunday, and then the NSJ has her quoting other things on Tuesday. So,
all right, let's get to that. So the NSJ, the North State Journal. So there is a guy named Jamie Falkenberry who is basically, kind of the right-hand man to Cathie Truitt. He is very good friends with Andrea Dillon. So AP Dillon has, every single time we've exposed something, she will engage in subterfuge, just as you see here. And we are launching an investigation to see if she's actually working for Cathie Truitt and pretending to work at North State Journal. She has even gone so far, remember this, Nancy, to cover up the program for disabled preschoolers.
Yeah, that was really exciting.
To decenter their whiteness. And she actually said, you know what, CRT isn't always bad.
Yeah, she was saying culturally relevant training isn't necessarily a red flag, which...
Yeah. And she's saying, we ought not make a big deal out of this because, it may kind of, be like the boy crying wolf. I'm paraphrasing. But every single time we've exposed something, she has been the first to come out and print lies without checking it out, without offering any evidence. We've always offered evidence. We offered more evidence today in our rebuttal piece than she did.
Yeah, they didn't have it. They didn't even print the email that they said all the teachers got.
She's not working. She's not working for families. And we want to know if she's actually working for Cathie Truitt. We do. We're going to start looking into it. We know they have connections. We know they're coordinating. And every single time we come out, this is what happens. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about what the antagonistic relationship that Cathie Truitt has with parents. This statement, you will look and see it is still on the DPI's website. Mm-hmm. What you're looking at, this condemnation of parents without any evidence, parents going to school board meetings. This came out one day before the National School Board Association came out with their letter. So it says it's with her crush. She loves Eric Davis, who is a far leftist who sits at the school board head. It says, we're concerned as education leaders in our state. We are united in our fierce passion for serving students and in our commitment for providing all students and those serving our students with a safe environment. As we continue to see instances of violence unfold during some local school board meetings, that's a lie. No evidence for that. We are yet again unified. The increased hostility and threats of force that we have seen across the state, they're not reflective of what we expect and ask for our students, treating each other with kindness and respect. That's completely unfounded. And I'll tell you something. Parents are mad. They're damn mad because the masks aren't coming off. They're being lied to about CRT and they're being minimized. So what does Cathie Truitt do? She spends an inordinate amount of time telling people, hey, man, I got nothing to do with anything up here. Go check your local school board out. Parents do, and whammo. She comes out with that. By the way, Nancy, she's never retracted that.
No, she never retracted it. A day later, the NSBA letter comes out. The most she did was say, well, I don't agree with the NSBA calling them domestic terrorists, but she never retracted, what she said. She never explained why she didn't also balance that. If there were any emails or whatever evidence she had, quote unquote, of threats, she never balanced it with the actions, the subversive actions of so many of these local school board members, and associations with radical activists. Never put forth any empathy with the parents in that situation. And it was really surprising because I remember at the time in September, you had conservative or, Republican politicians coming out in line with the parents nationally. And then all of a sudden that came out. And then, a day later, the NSB letter comes out. I mean, and there's no apology or no recognition that, hey, maybe this is a two-sided issue. If there is threats of violence, like maybe the school boards are acting inappropriately as well. And it's just, it wasn't what I would expect from a conservative in office.
Yeah, definitely not. And I'll tell you something. This whole thing of going after parents is crazy. And let's not forget, she has not retracted that yet. She has not apologized for that yet. But today, conveniently, yeah. So that's awfully interesting. And so in today of all days, look, if you respected parents, let me tell you something. You would give them advanced notice of this change. You would socialize that with them, number one. And number two, you would give them a way to opt out. Number three, you take care of your teachers, right? You let them know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You let them know. So here we are today. And again, I'm going to refresh. We have this policy. Teachers, for some reason now, apparently need a permission to see the gender of the kids. And I got to tell you something. It begs the question, Nancy, why?
That's what I mean. I felt like the NSJ piece begged more questions than providing any answers. It was kind of like, well, why is it just this one puny email that they didn't even publish? Probably because maybe they knew that it wasn't. It was like a couple sentences at the bottom of the email. It wasn't really indicative of anything. Two, what does this exactly have to do with Title IX? Where's the research behind? Where's the specific connection? They just say Title IX and then expect you to just believe it because it sounds official. And then here we go, I spend a couple minutes figuring out, a reliable source to email who knows about transgender and policy and all of that stuff.
Right.
And comes back with, well, actually, so where was the research on this? Where was the communication? Gender is a hot topic. This thing happened with the legal name change back in March. So any other changes to the power school system, there really should be like a pre-release. And it signifies to me that they just want to make changes without making any waves, kind of under the radar, hope they get it through. And then if it gets exposed, they're gonna say, oh, well, it's not really that big of a deal. And these people, this is all just rumor, and they're making a big deal out of nothing.
Oh, I love this. We're clickbait, we're extremists.
Yeah, okay. All of this stuff. And it's a repeated pattern, and it's excluding parents, and it's calling parents conspiracy theorists.
But this makes more sense. This makes what's up on our screen. This makes more sense as the reason. This group that she honored their request the first time, that makes a lot of sense. I tell you what doesn't make a damn bit of sense is this Title IX. Tracy, you're exactly right. Here's what they're doing in Texas. They are making it illegal, calling it child abuse, to groom children into transgenderism. Let me tell you something. Gay parents do not like this. Gay people do not like this. And I'm going to explain why. First of all, trying to introduce children into transgenderism, or even, trying to be a transgender, it means it's not okay to be gay.
Right.
Because it's okay to be gay, a gay male. You don't need to change into a female. So they're erasing gays, and they're certainly erasing women with this. No question. I just said on Steve Bennett today, we don't even have the right to have the name girls on our own bathrooms.
Yeah. And we're birthing people now. So
yeah. Listen, women, you need to fight back. You need to fight back. Again, you have to call. Don't write. Call your representative. I don't give a damn if you have a job that you can't do it or whatever. Sneak out. Say you're going to, do whatever. Make a few calls. Get them on the record. We need everyone on the record, and let us know.
Yeah.
Let us know.
And we know more and more data is coming out. More and more people are coming out very bravely who have transitioned. And a lot of these kids who are affirmed too early, or as soon as they start thinking they're the other sex, they actually end up in the long term being homosexual or lesbian, and being confused at that age and not figuring it out. And so what you end up doing is potential significant amount of harm, especially people who have gone through medical changes or even surgical changes, when actually that's not what they needed. They just needed, to go through this process of figuring out what their sexuality was. So this immediate affirmation, it's almost like some of these board members, local board members that I've researched, they're almost like happy and excited and proud that
they love it.
You're going to affirm kids before the kids even know what's happening to them. And that's really bad.
That's why they took the gender out. They took the gender out in the classroom so that through social emotional learning, gender can be affirmed there. So they clean the slate, all right? Because the lessons for social emotional learning, and it says this in CASEL, that's the goal, is to explore their gender. So if you don't have it in the class, and if you're not assigned, yeah. This is my cousin, and Heather, you put up another post. Okay. So my cousin's in West Virginia. She is a concierge at homeschooling. You have to hit her up. Heather, please put in the chat where we can find you again. So let's look at a couple of other things, because look, we need to bring the evidence, right? That Cathie Truitt has done things that, quite honestly, are not in the best interest of our children, and kind of lies about it, right? The one thing is she told the truth, I think, right? I think. So this is my favorite. So I'm going to share this with you. When I try to, let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So this is a radio show where Truett was asked about CASEL SEL. She's been getting a lot of complaints, obviously. And here's what she says.
Is there one place that a parent can go to, or a group of parents, and express those, and be some person who's sending a letter or an email, but who can actually get the attention of the right person who can do something about this, who can get this taken off the website, for example?
You hear the video.
So first of all, I would say that parents need to ask themselves, what's the issue with it being on the website? I mean, right now it's just on the website. If the real issue is if they see that if they see this in their child's classroom, or if they learn that their child's school is paying CASEL to train teachers, etc., which a school or district would have the right to do, it's at that point that parents.
All right.
Meanwhile, CASEL is the standard on State Board of Education talks for the mental health plan for the whole state, which is mandatory. But it doesn't matter that it's on the NCDPI website.
Stop looking at the website. Okay. So, I mean, that's her. That you get to see the real her. Is she interested in, is she interested in parents? No. She wants to stop you from looking at the website. Here's another one. Ready? Here we go.
The power to delay the standards. So what I was able to do was to take out of the glossary of the standards the terms systemic racism, gender identity, and systemic discrimination. That was all I could do. So we have these standards. We've been working with the General Assembly to see.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah. So she said that was a GOP meeting on June 10th, where she said out of the glossary of the standards, which is the backbone of the standards, essentially, she took out gender identity and systemic racism. A week later, they were in there, and she said she read every single page. I had that clip too. Of it, and then approved it wholeheartedly.
So she lied. So in front of Republicans, she's going to say that I took out these terms, and the material fact of the matter is she did not.
Right. And she was very specific. She said out of the glossary in that clip. She was very clear, because the spin the NCDPI puts on it is, the compromise was she was just going to take them out of the standards and always leave them in the glossary. But at that point, she says, I took them out of the glossary of the standards. She was very clear. And then a week later, that's not the case. So, which is it?
Guys, this has real world consequences for the schools all the way down. Now, I know that we're focused here on getting local school board members elected, and that's hugely important. But we have got to focus on the state. Right now, the state controls about 70 to 75% of what goes on in the school districts, as evidenced by the last three things we showed you. It's this power school policy. It's, by the way, school board members were not told about it. It's Castle SEL. School board members are being lied to about it from DPI. We're going to report on that later. Just subterfuge. And then the other one is the glossary. She's, saying that there's no critical race theory in the glossary. Thanks to me, I took it out, and she did not. So these things are being handled at the state level. And then when you catch her doing it and you hold her accountable, why are you doing this to me? I'm not in charge. I have no control. Yeah. She has every bit of control. No, by the way, here's the coup de grace. This is the worst one. Truitt is the only superintendent, the only real Republican, to our knowledge, in America that has instituted a policy for critical race theory for disabled children, 3 and 4 years old. We reported on it. It's absolutely horrific. So, this is a teacher training program, Nancy. So these teachers are trained and they go to Johnston County, Wayne County, Wilmington, wherever they go.
They had a whole system set up, a whole early education equity cohort system set up through this IDEA training grant, or through this IDEA federal grant, where the culturally responsive training, the clips of which we had and the materials we downloaded before they took it down from the website and tried to hide it, were going out to teachers who signed up and applied to be part of this cohort. And it was 7 or 8 counties. And I have a screenshot of those involved. And we don't even know, is this cohort still going on behind the scenes? No one's done any follow-up from the NCDPI. It just whisked off the website and said, well, I have no control over it. And, meanwhile, the information had been up on that North Carolina ELN website for 9 months. They didn't know. It'd been there for 9 months. What are they doing? It's again, and then again, they shoot the messenger. They say, Cathie Truitt retweeted a piece that was completely lying, that basically said that parents were calling in based on rumor. And meanwhile, we had the downloaded information related to this grant. Yeah, that's what he
thinks of you. In fact, I've had a couple of people today send me screenshots of the demeaning and condescending way that she's responded to people, to parents on social media, saying that they don't know what they're talking about. And they're listening to clickbait and all that, making them feel like they're stupid. This, by the way, this gaslighting is pretty common with teachers anyway, but she does it. This is the kind of crap that she is training teachers, because she wants them to teach 3 and 4 year old disabled children this. Whiteness affects everything we bring to our interactions inside and outside the classroom. When we use clarifying conversations, we deconstruct whiteness.
I mean, they were using federal funds. I mean, the salaries of the people who made this presentation are in that amendment of that grant. The salaries of these people, and they're still working there. There's been no accountability, no information as to whether these training cohorts are still going on. All this information hidden. And then Cathie Truitt, despite having personal back and forth emails with me, acknowledging that she saw this material that I sent to her, puts out a public statement that includes an article that says parents are basing this on rumor. And none of this was substantiated. I mean, what are you thinking? That's not evidence?
Derek, I have to address you, Derek. Most teachers disagree. I want you to know 30% or maybe even more now of people in our coalition are teachers. Suter Conrad, who works with us now, was a teacher. She left CMS. So we deal with teachers. We find out about everything through teachers. Mm-hmm. Yes, we found out a lot about parents, but I promise you, teachers are fighting. And look, I don't blame teachers for being behind the scenes and fighting, and that's part of our job to take the fight for
them.
For them, yeah. I mean,
they get fired. I worked with one who got fired, and this person cannot go public.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, places like North State Journal, shame on them. They exist to protect the government. We exist to protect the people from the government. And that includes teachers. Teachers don't want to do this. And by the way, teachers, you should be damn insulted that biological sex is going to be hidden from you. I mean, the good teachers, the teachers that want to groom, they love it. But it's like, who the hell are you, right?
Yeah, it's like, well, if you have staff who you don't think could handle the biological gender of a child, why are they staff? Well, that kind of begs another question.
Yeah.
So
right. I mean, what are you thinking? Yeah, teachers are afraid of being fired, but look, come to us, bring the stuff to us. We're going to take care of this. Our job is to make sure that we keep this out of control Department of Public Instruction in check. I mean, shame on you legislators. You know what you've done? Instead of handling the schools yourself, and it's your duty to do that, you have kind of abdicated your duty to oversee what's going on and to be in control. You just write bills and say, okay, the DPI is going to do this, they're going to do that, and the State Board of Education. State Board of Education largely are unelected bureaucrats that are radical and responsible for nothing. So the legislature needs to speak up. Do not let your representative tell you there's nothing they can do. There's everything they can do. It's their role to do it.
Yeah, we have confirmed this and listened to the Special Education Committee that recently formed. Their first speaker went through the law and the history of the law with who has what power and some of the cases that were presented in court, fighting who has what power. And it's very clear that it's the General Assembly who ultimately has the power over the State Board of Education and CDPI. It's very clear. And that's even been challenged, and it's been clarified in court. So, the reps need to learn that they are in charge of this, and they need to figure this out, because the NCDPI it's run amok. You can't trust it. They've made so many terrible decisions. Anytime you try to point this out or work with them or try to suggest some more transparent way forward, they just attack you. They claim you're liars. They don't care that you have evidence. Otherwise, it's just survival of the political elite. And
yes.
It's not right at all.
Well, I'll tell you, we have gotten information that the DPI is paying their employees anywhere from 10 to 40% more than they actually are entitled to get according to the pay schedule up at the state. So teachers, you need to raise a little hell. You're on the front lines. You deserve battle pay, and they're taking your money and they're making your lives worse. We need more money to the teachers. We need more money to the classrooms, and they are blowing out the budget and then pretty much giving you the middle finger when you have anything to say about it. Teachers are being treated terribly, terribly under the superintendent as well. This is terrible. So, I mean, this wasn't intended to be a show of the terribles, but I want you to know, I want everybody to know that we're going to take care of teachers, and we're going to take care of getting the truth out and exposing what's going on. And we want you guys definitely behind us in that effort. School vouchers, Michelle, I don't know, because look at charters. Charters are bound to a lot of this crap as well. Charters had to give that god-awful survey that I showed you. So, right? I mean, I don't know to be fair, I don't know what the solution is. I would start at transparency and honesty.
Yeah, and dismantling the DPI.
Dismantling the DPI.
Ideally, it would be a free marketplace of ideas in my mind, where the public school system wouldn't be co-opted by activists on either end, really. But currently, it's the far left. Wouldn't be co-opted by activists. These activists would go out and start their own schools and do the work to raise money and figure out ways to start their own school and market their 1619 ideas in the marketplace and see how many people sign up for that and what their real results are. But they know that's going to fail, so they don't go do that. Instead, they take over the system that's already in place. They do it through subterfuge. They do it by these things where they make changes without letting people know. Then if they're found out, they come back and say, oh, well, it's no big deal, or the messenger is lying. We've got this handled. Don't worry. Turn the other way. Don't look at our website. Just go.
Don't look at our website. Look at the liars over there. Us, right?
But this is exactly how this has happened. And this is exactly how this has happened over the past several decades. And now we're at this breaking point where these activists do have a significant, if not total, control.
As evidenced by us putting up their requests. And their request is honored. I guess this is another cousin of mine. This must be Slim's cousin tonight.
So family reunion.
Look, this family reunion in July, I won't be there. I don't need to be there. I've been talking to you guys this whole time. Our charter school my daughter goes to is slowly turning into public schools. Yeah, Dickie, I mean, that's happening. It's happening everywhere. And
they're going to regulate and regulate and regulate. And people say, well, why do you waste your time with the public school system and just fight for school choice? Well, guess what? Once they regulate all of the public schools, do you really think they're going to stop there? Or don't you think they're going to try to regulate the private sector too and stop homeschooling and all of that stuff?
Of course.
So we have to start somewhere. Maybe the public school is a lost cause. I'd like to think it isn't, because I went through public school and felt like I had a pretty age appropriate and solid education. But it was more locally controlled at that point. So we got to fight, and we got to fight for transparency and not let them get away with this sweep under the rug. Oh, nothing to see here. And by the way, I have an arm by my name, so everything's fine. Everything's dandy.
Yeah.
No, you've got some explaining to do, and you haven't done your work.
I'm so proud. Yeah. And I'm so proud of everyone and I did not make this graphic. I've seen it no fewer than 20 times today. Of this, when you see the North State Journal try to cover up for Truett and not ask any critical questions and just to try to muddy the waters so that people don't see the truth, they're not protecting children. They're not protecting families. I want you to make comments there and try to chat nicely, but this is, I did not make this. Challenge them.
Ask questions.
What is that? Yeah, always ask questions, and I have to tell you, Nancy, the social media posts that I've seen where people are challenging Cathie Truitt, they're nice and respectful. And that's the way to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they work for us, right? They were elected to do this job. So they can't make you feel bad if you're asking a question, that's about it.
They work for us. We pay their salaries.
So try hard not to be intimidated. It's easy to feel intimidated, but don't be, because ultimately they work for you. And chances are, if you've done your homework, they haven't. So,
right. We're finding that out today.
And I just question certain things, like you just question, like with CRT, one of the common strategies was, well, if you have a sentence from one of these CRT types, switch the white out for black and decide if you could, switch the races around and decide if you could say that, if that would be acceptable to say. That would be like one trick to identify, a controversial statement or whatever, if you were lost in the words. So this is the same thing. So if the DPI were currently run by a Democrat, would this be acceptable to the NSA to make this change without notifying people? I don't know.
Hey, Peter.
Why is it acceptable for a Republican to do it?
Peter and I have had several conversations about, along with other members of the community. And, people think that this is a true LGBTQ civil rights movement. It is not. It is not, because gay people are not behind this at all. They don't want, in fact, we're talking about the pornography books. They're in the schools and they're not age appropriate. They don't want this.
I've talked to, they don't.
They resent having themselves caricatured in this way.
Yeah,
it's not fair. So let me see. Raise my hand. Yeah, I mean, asking these questions, it's insane. I mean, and by the way, kids, I just heard this week, kids are being asked in math class if they're gay or not. So my question is, how are these things still allowed to be talked about in class, right? But the gender cannot be seen.
Yeah.
Let's told you the answer. If you're exploring identity, as Castle SEL says, that's the goal, and you don't actually have a biological sex to be tied to, it makes it easier to do identity exploration, right? Yeah. And we covered last week as well. I believe it was in Florida. A poor girl tried to kill herself because 3 times, I think, according to the lawsuit, because she had been groomed by a counselor to be a different gender and was confused and kind of terrorized. This is happening all the time.
Yeah. It's really troubling. They are confusing the issue. They aren't doing their homework. They aren't being transparent. And all that leads to is subterfuge and undermining,
Right.
who they work for. And I've just been severely disappointed in this past year in trying to bring some things to light. And the attacks are just off
The attacks on us.
Scale. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been open about this. We've taken a lot of hits, and a lot of hits, most of them come from our side because people don't like. Yeah, I mean, people don't like us criticizing somebody with an R behind their name. But I guarantee you, if Democrats had done this so close to a midterm, there'd be wall-to-wall ads, digital ads, etc., calling them out appropriately. This is parental rights that we're talking about. What we want is every lawmaker to say, look, this is a mistake. We're going to make it right and figure it out. That's what you have to do. But pretending like this never happened and it will blow over, that's not going to work.
Yeah,
No.
and that's what they've been doing. And it's so, I hate it.
Yeah. It's not
This is how we got to this point. So it doesn't matter who's doing it, Republican or Democrat. This is how we got here. So we got to stop it. And the only way to stop it is to expose it.
So I have some exciting news. I have some exciting news that we're doing a soft launch for tonight. So we've talked a lot about, making change, all that. So we are starting a 527 super PAC, yay, with moms across the state, moms with very big platforms that are very, very good already at getting the message out, etc. Let me tell you how that works. We're going to be backing candidates in races all over the state, and we're going to be backing candidates who are willing to take the fight to the enemy. They're willing to say, no, this is not going to work, and stand up against members of their own party if necessary. But we will be we'll be launching it officially next week. We'll be telling you who our board members are. They're located all across the state, and we're ready to rock.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and we can ask them direct questions, and they'll be held accountable. And Mr. Boykin just made a statement. I agree. I brought up those issues to school boards accepting these books, and I'm like, how is this not a stereotype? These depictions of members. I mean, is the LGBTQ community just one homogenous block of people that all want to be represented this way? These are some of the most stereotypical books I've ever seen in my life, and I completely agree. I think it's kind of insulting, and they're putting in books exactly that generalize all gays as hypersexualized or active or whatever. And I think that's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Well,
they're just using it,
demonstrably unfair. Michelle wants to know, can we primary people? 2 words for you: damn straight. Damn straight. We need, look, limited government. Limited government. If you really believed in that, you wouldn't delegate your authority to other, bureaucrats to do the job, because this is a mess we're in. Limited government. We have to have that. We have to restore that. We need to cut down the DPI and to, I think, 25% of where it already is. That would be 75%. It needs to go. That money needs to be either saved for the taxpayer, a little bit of both, and reappropriated to the teachers in the classroom on the front lines doing the job.
Yeah. We need to reverse this trend of funding bureaucracy. It's gonna.
Peter? Yeah, Peter's playing district roulette. We're all playing district roulette right now because nobody knows where the little ball is going to land on, because we are still in hell over our map. So we will keep you informed. Next week, we've got big announcements. We're going to explain it. With you, Ricardo. We're going to do some splaining next week, but we are taking our fight into the political realm. So this is going to be extremely exciting. We've got several backers already, and we haven't even announced. They're like, hey, I'm helping you. We're in, because you better believe the candidates that we back, you know that that's a good stamp of approval there, because there's going to be a lot of litmus tests and things like that. Peter, exactly. Right. And you know what, Peter, our official state policy is abstinence. We're supposed to be teaching
that's
that.
in the sex ed statute.
They're teaching, yeah, pole dancing and God only knows what else. Right. So anyway, well, thank you guys for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. We will keep you updated, and you better believe we're going to keep holding people accountable for this stuff.
Yep.
All right. Well, have a good evening, guys, and we'll talk